Hello everyone, welcome to my podcast. Starting with this series, I'll be taking you through a detailed exploration of the history of world civilizations on our members-only channel. Before we delve deeper, this episode will introduce several key factors crucial for understanding the progress of civilizations around the world. Historically, there was a common misconception that race itself determines the level of civilization. Some historians and sociologists with racist tendencies believed that humans could be divided into superior and inferior groups, and that the slow development of civilizations in certain areas was due to the local population's lack of intelligence. This is entirely a misconception. Modern research shows that differences in intelligence between races are not significant, and the variations within the same race are actually greater. Even if there are differences in intelligence, these are more likely caused by other factors, not innate ones. For example, poor dietary habits can hinder normal brain development, or even lead to underdevelopment. After the Meiji Restoration, Japan began to adopt Western practices, incorporating meat, eggs, and dairy into their diet, which significantly improved the overall physical health and intelligence levels of the population. This shows that dietary habits, not race, influence civilization. So what factors are truly crucial for the development of civilizations? I believe there are three key factors: changes in geographical environment and climate, cultural habits, and random events that could trigger significant chain reactions. This episode will focus on how geography shapes civilization. Before Columbus discovered the New World in 1492, every continent, whether South America, North America, Oceania, or Sub-Saharan Africa, was inhabited by humans, except Antarctica. However, only Europe, Asia, and North Africa had managed to develop higher levels of civilization. Other regions were either not yet civilized or were just beginning their civilizational journey, lagging behind by thousands of years. What's the reason behind this? Many people believe that the lag in civilization development is due to technological delays. However, I would like to point out that the lag in technology is actually a result, not the root cause. In some technological fields, such as navigation, the Austronesian people, living on the islands of the Pacific and Indian Oceans, were far ahead of other regions long ago. Thousands of years ago, they could sail thousands of miles to Easter Island in the South Pacific, where they settled and built the famous giant statues. Easter Island remains one of the most remote islands in the world today. Despite their advanced technology, the Austronesian people did not develop a powerful civilization. This shows that the advancement of technology does not directly determine the level of civilization in a region. Another view is that the civilizations in Europe, Asia, and North Africa developed earlier than those in the Americas and Oceania, because these continents are directly connected to East Africa, the cradle of humankind, and our ancestors reached these places earlier. This view is based on past speculations. However, modern genetic technology has helped us determine the specific times when humans left Africa and reached other parts of the world. In fact, the first humans reached Oceania as early as 50,000 to 60,000 years ago. Modern humans had migrated from Africa to the Malay Archipelago and New Guinea. At that time, the sea distance from New Guinea to Australia was much shorter than it is today, and humans crossed the sea to reach Australia before modern humans arrived in East Asia. Therefore, the distance from the origin of humankind does not fully explain the evolution of civilization. Returning to the initial question, why were Europe, Asia, and North Africa able to develop higher levels of civilization earlier than other regions. The key lies in the fact that regions such as the Americas, Australia, and Sub-Saharan Africa inherently lack the natural conditions necessary to foster the development of civilizations. Moreover, the geographical features of these regions limit the exchange between humans and species. By comparing the development of civilizations in Eurasia, North Africa, with those in the Americas, we can see how the lack of natural conditions has impacted the progress of civilizations. About 20,000 years ago, humans arrived on the American continent. By around 8,000 to 7,000 BC, America had already begun early agricultural activities. Although this was slightly later than West Asia, it was much earlier compared to Central Asia, Western Europe, and Northern Europe. Nevertheless, the development process in America gradually slowed down afterward. In West Asia, about 4,000 to 5,000 years after the onset of agriculture, agricultural societies formed and people began to settle down. One of the earliest settlements is Çatalhöyük in present-day Turkey, where human settlement dates back to around 7,400 BC, nearly 10,000 years ago. In contrast, the earliest settlements in America appeared around 1500 BC, much later than in West Asia. So why was the settlement process slower in America? A key factor is the near absence of large domesticable animals in America. Among the large mammals domesticated globally, apart from the llamas of the Americas, others like cows, sheep, pigs, donkeys, and horses are native to Eurasia and North Africa. The importance of livestock to humans is undeniable. On one hand, they provide a rich source of food and essential nutrients like protein. On the other hand, they serve as important labor and transportation resources. Without domesticable livestock, residents of the Americas had to track wild, large animals for meat, preventing them from settling in one place for long. Once local wildlife resources were depleted, they had to migrate to new areas. Similar situations were also found in Oceania and Sub-Saharan Africa. The lack of large domesticable animals also posed another problem. It failed to provide the strong force needed for agricultural production and urban construction. When modern Europeans arrived in the New World, they were surprised to find that the wheel had not yet been invented there. Although the locals knew how to use logs as rollers to transport heavy objects, the wide application of wheels in vehicles did not develop in the Americas due to the absence of large domesticable animals like horses, cows, or donkeys to pull them. Moreover, due to the lack of organic fertilizers provided by livestock, the fertility of the land in the Americas would decrease after being farmed for a period, often necessitating the burning of forests to clear new land for cultivation, further limiting their possibilities for settlement and the development of civilization. All right, now that we've discussed the inherent natural limitations, let's examine the exchange of species and people between these two major regions from a geographical perspective. The Eurasian continent is vast and varied in terrain. Once a crop is domesticated in one area, it can quickly spread to other regions with similar latitudes and climatic conditions, benefiting many people. For example, residents in southern China began cultivating rice over 10,000 years ago, and thousands of years later, rice spread throughout a wide area of Asia. After Alexander's campaigns, the Greeks even brought rice to the Mediterranean region. Let's also consider many of the fruits we enjoy today, such as apples, grapes, and watermelons, which are not native to China, but were introduced from other regions. During their spread, these species often hybridized with local similar species, creating higher quality new varieties. Take the apple, a fruit we are familiar with. The ancestors of the apple include the wild apple from Central Asia and the European crabapple. Over time, as apples spread and continuously hybridized, they became larger and tastier. Before apples were introduced to America, they were already widely cultivated in Eurasian regions at the same latitude and with similar climates. This shows that as long as the climate and latitude conditions are similar, apples can be cultivated. However, the situation in the Americas is quite different. Unlike the east-west orientation of the Eurasian continent, the north-south orientation of the Americas, with its vast differences in latitude and varying climatic conditions, makes it challenging for species to survive and thrive even if they spread to new areas. Thus, the exchange of species in the Americas is exceptionally difficult. Despite the total area of the Americas being similar to that of Eurasia, and potentially having a broader area suitable for agriculture, its north-south extension, spanning different climatic zones from the Arctic to the Antarctic, means that tropical plants struggle to survive in temperate regions, severely limiting the exchange of species compared to the Eurasian continent. Although modern agricultural technology has made it possible to adjust the growth habits of some crops to thrive in different latitudinal regions, such adjustments were difficult to achieve before the modern era. Without effective species exchange, the profitability and development of agriculture were very limited. In the Americas, not only was the exchange of species restricted, but the movement and exchange of people were also considerably limited. This is completely different from the large-scale transcontinental migrations and movements of people on the Eurasian continent. For example, the naturally formed Isthmus of Panama divides the Americas into two separate continents. Even within North America, you can observe a stark contrast between the warm climate of Mexico and the cold climate of the northern continent. People adapted to one type of climate face challenges, living and producing in another completely different climate. Therefore, in North America, many tribes were isolated from each other, and although they developed their own unique ways of life and cultures, the lack of interchange among people meant that the exchange and collision of civilizations were relatively slow. Of course, geographical factors affecting the development of civilizations also include the distribution of mountains and rivers, the location within marine environments, and climate variability. These environmental factors cause civilizations in different regions to display distinct developmental forms and gradually form unique local customs and economic characteristics. Many of the features we see in countries and regions today are closely related to their early paths of civilization development. That's all for today's content. We discussed the significant impact of geographical conditions on the early development of world civilizations. The reason the Americas lagged behind the Eurasian and North African continents in the early stages of civilization was not due to race, technology, or the distance from the cradle of humanity, but rather due to the inherent lack of geographical resources in the Americas and an environment that hindered the circulation of people and materials, all of which impeded the progress of civilization. In the next episode, we will explore why ancient civilizations like Egypt and China were able to build magnificent structures like the pyramids and the Great Wall, while other civilizations struggled to accomplish such feats. We will also discuss the factors behind the different developmental forms of these civilizations. Thank you for listening. If you liked today's content, please like and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next episode.